Hello Divya,
Fine.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too.
Okay.
Yes,
So, actually, I'm so excited to talking to you. And
likewise.
okay. You know what? My first question to you is that we all are feeling very, bit of low and frustrated, also because of the lockdown and many things are happening. But when do we know that, our mental health is like really getting affected, and now is the right time to, seek a professional?
See, current scenario is a real sort of what should I say? It is not a normal scenario, right? So the situation that we are facing right now, in given that situation, the kind of responses that people are having, the kind of emotional responses that people are having, that is not what regularly we would be feeling. So
Yeah.
I think in this given time, I think it will be safe for me to say that we all need some sort of emotional support, and we
Right.
all need to take some sort of professional guidance in some form or the other. And see, in any case, taking some sort of a support or guidance from a therapist is not something that is going to harm you. It is always something that is going to add to you in some way. There is no side effect to it. So I would say that given the current scenario of the anxiety and the amount of stress we are facing, the amount of uncertainty and the news of the grief, because we are hearing news of people's deaths, and it's now just not a number, it is now names that we are hearing about people dying. So given that scenario, I think all of us, if we got some sort of a support from somewhere, it would be very helpful for us. So I don't think that now we should wait for our mental health to really collapse before we seek a therapist. As a
Right.
preventive measure also, I think all of us should be going ahead and looking for professional help.
Yes. Okay. And now once we are ready now, okay, chalo, abhi dekhna hi padega, we should go and seek a therapist or a counselor. And how do we choose one? Because there's so much of information and so many people to help you, to guide you, and how to choose your right therapist. Like I
Okay.
got you.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think there are a lot of support groups out there, and there is a lot of free therapy sort of a thing available, which is good. But and it is a very good measure for those people who cannot, manage to seek help otherwise. But I always insist that a professional is a professional because they have been trained specifically in listening and understanding your psychological problems. Like they have been trained for years in human psychology, and that is a totally different thing as compared to just a small, kind of just having a small training, or just have being there in a call center kind of a place and talking to people, which is a very good support to begin with. I will again say that. And with kind of considering the kind of huge population that we have and everybody needs to be catered, it is a very good initiative. But in the long term, do go to a professional who has the correct qualifications. There is no basis when it comes to gender and age in a therapist, but yes, you should look for the qualifications, that your therapist has the correct qualifications. Initially going to these support places and all is excellent. Please take that help if you're not getting something else otherwise. But in a long term, if you're giving your mental health in someone's hand, please make sure that they have the right qualifications. That's the one thing that you should ask your therapist before you start a therapy, and you have the right to ask. There is no concern in that. You should inquire about their qualifications.
When I was feeling bit low in between, and I spoke to my mother, to my friends, and they were very supportive actually. But when someone is really feeling low or going through some sort of mental illness or anything, so the one thing that I would say that कौन सी चीजें जो ऐसे उनको बिल्कुल नहीं बोलनी है ताकि उनको और ना इफेक्ट हो जाए, तो स्पेशली वो चीजें जो उनको बिल्कुल नहीं बोलनी है ताकि वो और लो फील करे या और बुरा फील करे अपने बारे में,
Correct.
और कौन सी
So,
चीजें जो हम उनको बोल सकते हैं उस वक्त.
right. So, see, there is a, very colloquial statements like, अरे ये सब कुछ नहीं होता, अरे depression वगैरह कुछ नहीं है, it's all in your head. And
Yes.
we don't tell someone who has lung cancer कि अरे it's only in your chest. Right? A comedian had made, I remember Daniel Fernandez's comedian had made this joke. Why do we say that thing about mental health, that it's all in your head? Get out, just stop thinking about it, distract yourself.
Yes.
and get out of it, snap out of it. These kind of statements we make, and अरे ये सब कुछ नहीं होता, अरे कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, अरे ये तो होता रहता है, अरे सबके साथ होता है. These kind of statements, So what you do is when you make such statements is not only you are belittling the person's problem. You are telling the person that the problem is not valid enough. So now you are giving the person two problems. First of all, they are struggling with their problem. And then second of all, now you are telling the person that the problem is not valid. So you are multiplying the person's problem. Now they are thinking, oh, I have this problem which I have to struggle with. And on top of that, they are thinking, oh, I should not be having this problem. So the person's problem has got multiplied by 2. So this is just increased the person's problem. Instead, what I tell people, who are the caregivers or who are surrounded by people who are facing some sort of a psychological challenge, is that just listen. I know that, a lot of times there is nothing you can do, but just listen and do not interject in the sense, jump into giving an advice or jump into dismissing a person's problem. Just listen and understand. And one thing which I always say is don't judge. Don't judge. अरे इसको ये प्रॉब्लम, अरे तुम्हें ऐसा क्यों प्रॉब्लम, अरे ये तो मेरे टाइम पे तो मेरे को ऐसा हुआ था, मैंने तो ऐसे ऐसे डील कर लिया था. दिस इज व्हाट पीपल से, अरे हमारे साथ तो इतनी बार हुआ है, हमने तो कुछ इतना ध्यान नहीं दिया, तुम इतने छोटे छोटे बात को लेके बैठ रहे हो. दिस इज व्हाट पेरेंट्स टेल अस, हमारे टाइम में तो ये हो जाता था, हम लोग को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. बट वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट एवरीवन हैज अ डिफरेंट यूनिक पर्सपेक्टिव. Something that you might have been easily able to cope with, I might not be able to cope with. Something that I am easily able to cope with, you might not be able to cope with. So we have our own unique set of challenges. We have no right to look at from an outside perspective into another person's world and judge them for their problems. So I think any person who's a listener or just a caregiver around a person who has a psychological problem, the one thing that I would request them to do is do not judge the other person for their problems.
So yeah, listening will do the work, I think.
Yes, listening, and just listening with the agenda of just listening, not responding.
Right.
We quickly want to give advice. अरे तुम ऐसा कर लो, अरे ऐसा कर लो. But no, probably the person is coming and telling you because they've already tried all the possible things that you can think about. Any suggestion you have given, you're going to give, the person has already tried. You think it has not occurred to the person कि अरे just get out of it, distract yourself, watch a movie. Person must have already thought about these things and done all these things. Right? That is why they are coming to you with a problem or just sharing it with you. So just listen. A lot of times I have seen just speaking it out in itself gives a huge relief. So if there are people around and I can just give this one message today to all the people who are there, just be a good listener to each other. That's all.
Okay. And, how normal is it to, visit a therapist or a counselor? And like how frequent we go to a doctor for like a small cough or small cold. So how normal is it to visit a therapist?
I think you've answered the question. The question has answered itself. So yes, absolutely. Every time you get a flu, you are not going to sit and think, "Arey, should I go? Should I not go?" You have had a fever for 2 days. You will go to a doctor and you will go and seek help. But you have been not been able to get out of your bed for 2 days. You are getting so anxious that you are sweating continuously, and this has been happening to you for a while. Yes, go and seek a therapist just like you would go and seek a doctor for a flu. So, and a lot of times I tell people do not wait for a collapse to happen. I have seen that this is a pattern. People kind of struggle for months and then there is a total collapse where they're like, today we can just not get out of our bed and go to work. We are just done. And they just lock themselves, and that is when that breakdown happens, is then they seek a therapist. I tell them that when you are on the course of it only, when you are seeing that the stressors are overwhelming you, go and look for help, because then it will be much easier to contain it rather than when there is a breakdown. And I also have a lot of clients who come to me on a regular basis just for a detox session. They do not wait for a problem to happen, and they don't even need an excuse to come and meet me or have a session with me. They just come and have a detox session with me just for, a regular maintenance of their mental health. Just like you would go to a dentist regularly, it is advised that you go to a dentist regularly for your oral health and, just get a regular checkup. In the same way, going to a therapist also on a regular basis, once in a month, even if you don't have a problem, is very well advised. So don't, there is nothing, a therapist is not going to give you injections or operate on you or give you some high dose medicines. What is wrong with just going and finding someone to talk to? That's, I think, that much investment of effort and resources should be made towards our mental health. Because if we have our mind to cooperate with us, then we can achieve the world. And if your mind is not cooperating with you, believe me, even the most talented people can be at a very serious disadvantage.
Right. And even I'm working on it, मैं एक हफ्ता 10 दिन overthink करूंगी अच्छे से stress लेने के बाद I'll be like, now let's book a session.
Yes. So this is a good thing to regularly come to a therapist in detox.
Okay. So now, like, just to keep my mental health healthy and good, anything that we can do on a daily basis so that we will keep things on check and, improve our mental health.
See, I think this kind of suggestions and guidelines are very frequently, circulated. That take care of your physical health, exercise, meditate, follow a routine, sleep well, eat well, and all of these strategies are absolutely correct, and it should be done because our mental and physical health are connected. So the more we take care of our body, the better our mental health feels. But over time, I've come to realize that there are two key factors that are also, besides all this, that are very extremely necessary for a person's maintenance of mental health. And one of them is social networking. It is very necessary to have social support. I have seen most of the people who go through, a majority of the people who go through a sort of psychological standstill, when they come to a psychological standstill, is when they have got isolated and they are not able, and not just isolated, I don't mean that they are alone. When I'm isolated, I mean emotionally isolated. That is, they might have a lot of people around them, they might be living in the middle of their family, but yet they have no one to share their emotional concerns with. And that is when, I have seen that people collapse. So one thing which is very necessary, that we should have at least one or two people in our life, or at least a set of people in our life to whom we can go to and speak to and be connected with, on a regular basis, because that is very necessary, social connection for our mental health. I'm not saying that you have to go and meet people right now. Even if you are virtually connected to people in the given situation is also fine. So I often, advise people to stay connected with people, talk to them, and that is very helpful for their emotional health. Second thing which I have seen is, it is very necessary for a person to be productive, to have a day which feels meaningful, like something that we have done today that makes me feel like, something productive I have done, something worthwhile that makes me feel. That is very necessary for, see, you don't have to do something to justify your existence or justify your day or worth, but we humans have this need to feel worthwhile. And when we engage in something, when we do something that is productive, that makes us feel worthwhile, it gives us a self-esteem boost, and it is very necessary for our emotional health. So besides all the other strategies and pointers that you hear on a daily basis, these are the two things which I would recommend. The one is that stay connected with people, at least someone whom you can have an in-depth conversation with, not just superficial, "Hey, how are you?" In-depth conversation. And second thing, do something meaningful, be productive on a regular basis. That's very necessary.